I knew absolutely nothing about the Prague Quadrennial, so I kind of signed up without a clue of what the Prague Quadrennial was.
Everything that we did was all volunteer-based, so we all kept track of how many hours we volunteered.
I am from a very small town in central Montana, in the middle of nowhere. Grew up on a ranch, so my idea of theater is very small and design is very small.
We backpacked from London to Paris, to Amsterdam, to Germany, and then all the way to Prague. And so we spent 3 weeks prior to even getting to Prague exploring Europe, all because of the opportunity that USITT gave us. I've never been out of the US prior to the Prague Quadrennial. I had never been to Canada prior to, I've never been anywhere. So this was huge for me. This was a complete, out of my comfort zone experience that I would not trade at all. I wish I could go back.
There was over 70 countries at the Prague Quadrennial, and each had their own exhibit, displaying their own style of theater, as well as their own style of theatrical design.
I got to see the world that I always wanted to see, and get to see parts of it that I never thought I would even get to dream of seeing.
My entire knowledge or idea of what theater is changed. The National Exhibit was what I spent my time on. It was a giant warehouse that we built out of hard walls that were then painted and textured to look and feel like bricks. So I spent almost every day stapling and gluing bricks to walls, which we coated in newspaper and cheesecloth and sawdust and painted and put them all up and took them all down, put them up and took them down.
We had to pack our entire exhibit into the back of the semi. Closing the doors for the semi, I think, really made it real. We are going to Prague to set this up. When we got to the venue, these giant doors opened up and there's a huge celebration and everyone rushed into the room to put up their exhibits. The exhibit was in a giant rectangle that is where our exhibit had to be. We could not go out of that rectangle, and it was just in a giant pile. The Prague Quadrennial overall was way more than what any of us were expecting. At least I personally thought when you go over there, it's just a picture, and that's the picture of the show and stuff like that. When we got there, I was very happily wrong about that. Everyone's exhibit was extremely different. There was performance pieces going on all day long. All through the halls of the exhibits, you can stumble upon some form of artist performing some form of performance piece. There was workshops that technicians could do. There was, all through Prague, there was giant performance pieces going on.
An experience I had was I was on top of a ladder next to our exhibit, and we had these giant blow-up things on top of our exhibit, and I was using a broom to try and scrape it back to me so that I could fix it. And I heard this really strange noise from behind me, and I turned around and there was a giant, probably 10-foot tall blue alien puppet wielding a broadsword, and he was tapping at my ladder and talking in some language. I still don't know what it was. And so I took my broom and started whacking back at his sword with him while I'm on top of this ladder, and we got into this really incredible impromptu sword fight. And a little crowd gathered around us and were cheering and clapping for us. And then it was over, and I climbed down and the alien went away. That was kind of how I used to describe the Prague Quadrennial, because was that theater? Was that a theatrical experience? It was something I was not expecting to happen, and it wasn't planned, but just the idea that theater can just kind of come from nowhere, and it doesn't have to be on stage, and it doesn't have to have this incredible design team behind it, but it can't have this design team behind it. It can be a lot of different things, and that's kind of when my entire idea of theater changed, probably. It wasn't any longer just a set and actors in costumes doing Shakespeare on a stage. It can be almost anything.
Japan's exhibit was a giant performance piece that every hour or so, or every 2 hours, they would come out and perform some form of performance piece. There was people tumbling around in giant worm costumes. You couldn't see the person, but you can just see this creature moving about their stage area.
I was a sophomore and was a sophomore through that entire process. And I was working with professional designers and technicians from around the country who have been in the business for 30, 40 years. Modeling that idea of professionalism and that working in theater is very similar to other careers. It's just a different set of skills that you're working with. Communication and leadership, and that there are things bigger than Montana or bigger than the university. I mean, the Prague Quadrennial was a project where people were communicating from across the world, and I was a member of that communication. So it was just a very humbling experience, and I guess broadening at the same time.
If you have the opportunity to be a part of the Prague Quadrennial, take it in a heartbeat. It is worth every hour we put in. Do not turn it down. Do not take it for granted. It is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and it is worth every moment of it.